So, yes, my name is Katy Leeson and I'm Managing Director of Social Chain UK, but as it says on the screen, I am an imposter. I don't feel like this is where I should be, and when I get the most amazing welcome like I just did, I sort of go a little bit like, oh, is that really me? And I want to talk to you a little bit about that today, because I could talk about my career and I could talk about where I got to, but what I really want to do is make sure that you've all got a few tips if you struggle with what I struggle with as well. So I started my career 16 years ago, came straight out of uni after doing a media and cultural studies degree and went into an agency and absolutely loved it. I was buying traditional press, radio and outdoor adverts. Really, to be honest, I just wanted to work with Heat magazine. That was the dream. I just wanted to be around as many celebrities as I could. And I actually reached the pinnacle when I got to go to the Inside Soap Awards. It was like dreams made, everything's good with the world. But I've always moved around in my career when I felt like I needed to learn something new. I now know that that's one of my values is learning, but I didn't know that before. And I've always kind of looked for new opportunities to learn something new. So I moved from my first job, I got what I call comfy slippers, where I felt like I could do it with my eyes shut and needed to learn something else, moved to a bigger agency. And then from there, I started to sort of look into different areas of the business where I could have an impact and moved into more of a marketing role where I then started to learn about the business. But the one thing that I didn't have in my armor and the thing that I didn't have in my knowledge bank was anything about digital. And I knew that that was where the future of the business was going and the industry was going, was all digital. Everyone's time was being spent on digital and it was increasing. And this little agency, Social Chain, popped up out of nowhere. A man named Stephen Bartlett, if anyone in the room knows Steve, I'm sure you all do, started following me on Twitter and we started to have a conversation. And this was 5 years ago. And I thought, yeah, this is interesting actually. They're a really smart, innovative group of young people doing some really cool stuff in the world of digital. So I took on the role as Ops Director at Social Chain 5 years ago with the pure intention of wanting to learn about digital marketing because I'd never done it before. Within 6 months of being at Social Chain, Steve asked me to apply to be Managing Director. And I'm ambitious, and I'm determined, and I'm a little bit stubborn, so I did it. I went for the interview, and I got the job. But for a long time after they gave me the job, I kept thinking, why me? Why? Surely they've got it wrong. They've picked the wrong person. I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't know what the company does. How am I going to be able to do this job? How am I going to be able to have an impact? And how am I going to be a managing director? Surely at some point I'm going to get found out and I'm going to get sacked. That was pretty much every minute of the day. And I kept thinking about the same for the team as well. Why? The guy sat in meetings thinking, I'm sure they're thinking, why has she got the job? She's not qualified to do this. She's coming from something else. She doesn't know what we do. How are we meant to look up to this person and have her lead in the company? And I really struggled with it. I used to think, like, how will anyone believe in a managing director who doesn't actually believe in themselves? And it really took its toll. I sat in meetings in the corner. I refused to say anything. I was going to client meetings. I wouldn't say anything. I was in the office, and I was really frightened of saying something wrong. And I was hiding myself away. And I wasn't doing myself any favors, and I wasn't doing Social Chain any favors. But luckily, we've got a really open approach to therapy and well-being. And I made the decision to go and see Karen, the therapist that we had at the time. And honestly, life-changing. The best thing I have ever done, because Karen sat there and started talking to me about why I was feeling that way. What was it that was making me feel like I couldn't do that job? And we started to explore it a little bit. And I detailed all those things. I said how I couldn't feel like I could speak up, didn't feel like I was going to get far in my career, felt like I was going to get sacked every day. And she said, sounds like you've got Impostor Syndrome. Now, Imposter Syndrome was coined by psychologists in the 70s, and the basis of it is a thing where you feel like a fraud, and you feel at any moment like you're going to get caught out. So I'd like to see hands up if you've ever felt in your job like you're going to get found out at any moment in time. Yeah. And has everyone heard of Imposter Syndrome? I think you have now. It's more talked about now than when I started looking at it. The good news is we are not on our own. 70% of successful people have or have struggled with imposter syndrome in the past. Meryl Streep is one. Never think you would imagine that Meryl Streep would have said that she had imposter syndrome. And Albert Einstein as was said to have had it as well. So we're in good company. We're not on our own. We're in good company, some really bright people. So once I'd known what it was and started to explore a little bit more with Karen about, yes, this is imposter syndrome, I started to look at where it came from. And she said to me, what do you think of when you think of the term managing director? Does anyone want to shout out? What do you think? When you hear the word managing director, what do you think? Man. Old man. Old white man. Old white man, grey suit, sat in a corner of an office not talking to anyone. Yeah, that's what I had in my head. An old man in a grey suit, sat in a corner, not talking to anyone. This man on the picture. And I thought, where's that come from? So I Googled, imaged it. That's what came up. And I thought, if I'm not believing in myself, society's telling me that this isn't what I should be as well, because Google Image is the oracle of everything, and they're saying that I'm not a managing director as well. Now, the most frustrating thing is, the first picture for female managing director on Google Images was a Getty image. It wasn't even a real image. So I knew that I needed to do something about it. The imposter syndrome then had gone. I was like angry at this point. I just thought, right, okay, I'm in this role. I need to do something about this, and I need to stand up for all the other female managing directors and women out there that want to be managing directors one day, and I knew that that's what I had to do. So I've got some tips for you now on how to deal with it if you feel like you ever come across this in your career, because obviously I'm not a man in a grey suit, and I can't be a man in a grey suit. So now, I know now that I'm not alone. When I joined Social Chain, I really realized that I was with a group of imposters. It was started by 2 university dropouts and kids in their bedroom who created these pages of social influence, and people who had just not gone to uni and were just really passionate about what they did. And I thought, right, okay, that's okay, because I'm not the typical MD either. They're not the typical workforce. I'm not the typical MD. How can I make this work the best? So my 3 tips. The first one is you've got to understand what the expectation is versus the reality, and how the reality is the thing that can actually make you really successful. I am a massive empathetic person. My empathy is dialed up to the top of the chart. So knowing the culture of Social Chain and how much importance we put on care and support and giving people everything they need to do their job properly, it was at that moment that I realized that actually that part of my personality and that part of what makes me me is actually what makes me really good at being a leader of that company. Because all I want is people to be happy, because then happy people will produce the best work. So knowing that I have that in my armor is the thing that actually I can then use to make myself really good at the role that I've been given. Number 2 is embrace being imperfect, which isn't easy when you're perfectionist, like I am. But all our brains work really differently. Some people really are really into numbers, some people really like words, and some people are really creative. And when I was speaking to Karen about it, she gave me a really good analogy. When you're buying a house, you don't try and do the job of the estate agent, the solicitor, the legal team. You let the experts do what they're good at. And as soon as she said that, I was like, oh yeah, why am I trying to do the job of everybody in the office? Why don't I hire a team of experts who I can rely on that can help me be better and help me learn, and also complement the skill sets that I've got? And as soon as I took that pressure off myself, I realized that the imposter syndrome can be a really powerful thing, because it can highlight the areas where you need support, and then you can go and find the team that will make you the best team that it can be. And the third thing is really about finding the enjoyment in doing things differently. So being at Social Chain and experiencing the growth that the company's had has really enabled me to settle down and enjoy doing things differently, and understand that in the world that I work in, social media marketing changes every day. I'm never going to be able to keep up with the changes every day. So being able to embrace the fact that things will change and I can learn on a daily basis, and doing it that way has been really beneficial for me. And we've always gone above and beyond in terms of looking for the new and trying, and our values are to be first, fearless and ever-changing. And doing that differently has enabled us to grow from 30 people when I started and a revenue of about 2 million. Now in the UK, we've got 130 people and a revenue of about 10 million a year. And that is because I've really embraced these 3 areas. I've not tried to do everything myself. I've built the best team that I can at Social Chain and encouraged everyone to do great work. So I'm going to just wrap up with those 3 again. The first one, if you're feeling like you're ever an imposter, understand what the expectation is versus the reality, and how the reality is the thing that can actually make you really successful, because that company gave you that role for a reason, and you've just got to believe in yourself and find out what that is. Number 2 is embrace being imperfect. No one is perfect. We've all got our specialisms, so lean into those and find people who can help you be the best version of yourself. And the 3rd is find enjoyment in doing things differently. So maybe, hopefully, if we all do these things, one day, we'll be able to go on Google Images and really find that we can change what Google is telling us a managing director should be. Thank you so much.